Circuit.com and the director of the Austin Comedy Film Festival. And I'm joined today by director Paris Brown, who has two films that will be featured in the Austin Comedy Film Festival Summer 2022 event, which will be on July 17th. And thank you, Paris, for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Well, I usually give away the plot lines of films. And since you have two, I want to let you go ahead and explain to us what you'll let out of the bag anyway. No spoilers, but go ahead and explain what is it we're going to see on July the 17th.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, no spoilers. So let's start off with Coleslaw. Coleslaw is a pretty simple premise of a couple that goes to a restaurant, and the waitress is very insistent on them ordering the coleslaw, and then things kind of escalate from there. So it's kind of about how a very small thing can balloon to like an out of control thing pretty quickly. So that one's Coleslaw, and then Final Girl Defense is a horror comedy. And it's about it's the last frame of a horror movie, and you know how there's always like, oh, there's the last girl and she's beating the monster and the cops show up and it's all good. So it's more about, it's like, well, what happens now? Like the monster's gone and the cops are there, and there's all this, mayhem has ensued, and they're like, you're the only one who's still alive. So what's happening with that? You're the final girl. So it's about her kind of legal defense and how she can kind of explain that. It's like, no, there was a giant monster. There was a an unstoppable Jason Voorhees type of guy, and you have to explain. She has to explain that. So that's the two films that I have. Both comedic films. I'm a very comedic centered guy, which makes sense.
Both are very funny, and great job on these. It's funny because the films are very, very different in their look and the actors and those things. I know they're two totally different concepts, but if we can talk about how each of these films were put together on the back end, like what did you do for crew, and where did the filming take place, things like that.
Sure. So both of them are a little bit different. I can start with Final Girl Defense. The one thing, though, that is important is kind of keeping the same crew. So even though they are really different, I think you'll notice that a lot of the actors are the same. Like I think Todd is in there, and there's a couple different ones who are both like make their round. So we actually kind of use the same actors. And it started from that. So I'm in Dallas. I'm a Dallas guy, and there is what was formerly the Dallas Comedy House. Now it's called the Dallas Comedy Club. And a lot of the people that I have who are wonderful, wonderful performers, Todd Anderson, who's also one of the writers of this, I met them there. And from there, we just kind of started working on stuff. And then, so in my other day job, I also do like corporate video, and I've met some of my behind the scenes people, my friends there. So I kind of brought these two worlds of like the performers and who are like mostly doing live action performance, and a lot of the crew who have like done, a lot of corporate video, and they're like corporate video guys. And it's like, well, let's all get together after work or after practice, and let's see what we can make. The first one was it was over a couple different days. That one was like multiple different locations. One was a film office or a law office, and the other one was at a house, which, most people like, a lot of independent films. And then the second one, Coleslaw, was actually filmed at a local restaurant, and we filmed there after hours. We filmed all in one night. So that whole production was done in one night, which took quite a while. Which I learned some valuable lessons about doing that. But it definitely, it still turned out well. And at the time I was like, but it really turned out well because we only had location for one night. So that was a one night shoot.
Well, I was going to play time machine. That was my next question, to where the Paris Brown today is going to go back and visit the Paris Brown that was just about to walk into that location and start shooting. Do you have any advice, or is there anything that you learned from the shoot that'll help you out in the future?
Yeah, several things. I think as it happens, the main thing that I think that I learned from that was, a lot of people, and this is not anything new, you may have heard this from a lot of other short filmmakers, but like, people forget about sound. I'm a really big visual guy, but people always forget like sound is so, so crucial. And it's things you don't think of, because filming in a restaurant, we got a chance to film there when it was closed, and it's like, fine. And they're like, oh, but all the fridges still need to be on because they can't have stuff die. And they are big fridges. So it's like, oh yeah, that part. We forgot about all those different hums and those different electrical things. So always be aware of that, like those invisible sounds of things around. That's always a big one. The other thing, again, when you're filming all in one location, so I guess not to ruin it, but there's a shot towards the end, and Michael, since you've seen it, you probably know, but like that was supposed to be like a more elaborate shot, and we were kind of running out of time. So also film your big elaborate shots first before you do that last. Definitely, even if it's sequential in the film, like do that first. But it was kind of like last, and we're like, oh, okay. And I didn't feel great about it. I was like, oh man, but because of the hectic nature of the way it worked, so that was like the only take that we got. And there's a lot of like, hecticness going on in that shot, and it kind of worked out. So I would say turn into the skids sometimes. Sometimes things are going to work out. Nothing's going to work out perfectly when you're a filmmaker. It's just, you just have to be like, well, let's try it this way. Like turn into the thing that kind of presents itself kind of, as you go down this stream. It's like, well, the water's flowing this way. Let's see what this way does.
When I worked in location for many, many years, I was an audio engineer. I was a production sound mixer. And if we ever turned off a fridge, I would take my car keys and put them inside the fridge and close it. So that way I would forget to turn it back on or plug it back in, and I wouldn't drive away. That was like my secret technique.
Clever.
And there were many shoots where I got to my car and I was like, oh, damn.
Right, because I'm sure the location people will probably, they'll be like, "Hey, you didn't turn on our fridge, and all of our stuff is gone." Yeah, so that's that's a good tip. That's a really smart one.
Luckily, that never happened to me. Luckily, the car key trick worked every time. But I tell you what, you start unplugging stuff. You start unplugging air filters and things in houses, and we're in Texas. Man. Your whole crew is just like boiling. So that was kind of my life shooting in Texas, but.
Oh, that's good advice. Sound. Yeah, you know very well the importance of how crucial sound is, right?
It is, man. I mean, there's the old saying that says no one gives a crap about the sound guy until something goes wrong, right?
I've never heard that, but it's so true.
And hey, it's one of those things. I mean, the reason why I was able to work on set for 15 years is because I was very detailed, and I did a lot more listening and a lot less talking, and I only spoke up. And it was always kind of shocking when I spoke up because I was usually a pretty quiet person, but I only spoke up when there was an issue. And directors usually listen to me. They're like, okay, Mike wouldn't be, he's not going to be talking right now if he didn't have to. And so that was one of those things as a sound guy. You got to be a very quiet guy and only speak up when you know there's going to be a problem, or an airplane or construction, or somebody's mic just lost battery in the middle of the hottest take of the whole thing. And I'll never forget, man. There's a scene, the director's like, let's shoot it, we're running out of light, let's go, put the microphone on. I put the microphone on the guy runs and jumps off a cliff into a lake.
Oh no. What? Like what? It was like, why you run up? Why? What's so wrong?
Connection with you for a second. There you are. The guy runs, jumps off the cliff into a lake, falls into a lake, microphone's fried. And then I'm like, hey man, like I was trying to tell you, like and so we had
water and electronics, man.
He's like, well, what's the insurance? And when they did the insurance claim for like $2,700, they were not happy. So
yeah.
But anyway, all good. So anyway, the interview turned into talking about me instead of you. We're having a little bit of a connection issue. Let me see here what's going on. How are you looking on your screen? Because you're looking a little pixelated there. I might have to sign off and sign back on.
To myself, I guess I look good.
Okay, we're all good. I'm gonna trust it. So anyway, well, what about Final Girl Defense? Was there anything in there that you maybe learned about as well?
The importance of time, I think, is really good. I think also with Final Girl Defense, there was a good amount of special effects in Final Girl Defense and visual effects, which I actually didn't know the difference before between special effects and visual effects, even though I've been doing this for like a long time, but I never knew it's like special effects are on set and then visual effects are afterwards. And I was like, I've been using them interchangeably. But a lot of times with visual effects, especially if you're just starting, so I was just, because I also edit all the projects, I really love editing. It's like my first love. So I really, really love to edit. And I think that's like the last phase of writing. So it's like, that's when it all comes together. And as I was just starting to get good at, After Effects, like get better. I like really, really wanted to like show everything like as much as possible. It's like, look at this. And like, I'll hold on this frame for so long. But no matter what, especially if you're doing lower budget filmmaking, you want to have that reservedness. You want to kind of leave something in the audience's mind of what they were seeing. And it's kind of like you have to use that to hold back. It's almost like, it reminds me of, nothing's personal, but it always reminds me of like Steven Spielberg with Jaws, where he really wanted to show the shark the whole time, but the shark wasn't working. And he was like, shark's not working, all this stuff. But in kind of having that, like withholding it, it made it more scary, more terrifying, because it was like, oh, what's this thing? So especially like a horror comedy, the ability to have that restraint and kind of be like, I'm just going to show just a little bit. I can make this just a little bit look really good, as opposed to like holding on it for 20 seconds and it's like, all right, I can see the strings or whatever. Like it's like you're trying to show too much if you leave it all out there for the audience. So that was the other good takeaway I learned.
Well, that is important to learn early in your career. So that sounds, sounds like you learned a lot from these. It's our film school, right? It's
yeah. Which which I did. I like attended, but like you learn so much more on set. Like no matter what, you can learn all the things in the world and like study everything you want, but like you have to get on there and do it yourself, and especially like making your own thing and being in the trenches, and like that's the best way to learn anything. Most likely is like to do it. That's the way to do it.
How about the reality of walking into a live audience to watch your film? You were at Houston Comedy Film Festival, which I appreciate, and talk about that experience. Because you spend so much time planning, then you shoot, then you're in post, then you're marketing, then you kind of forget about it a little while, and then here you are looking at a screen with a crowd, and there's your work.
That's everything. It really is, and it's so much. I think in like this and like a lot of the stuff. So I do like a lot of corporate video and stuff. So a lot of the times and a lot of digital age stuff, you just don't see audience reaction. Like even if you put things online or whatever, like people will like tell you, oh, I like this, or you'll hear things a lot of times if you do stuff on YouTube or what have you. You'll like people like or something. But seeing it with them live is such a different experience, and that was something I remember talking about. It was something that kind of propelled us forward, and like to start, because I just now getting into like the independent film scene and like the independent festival circuit, and that's what started me on the path of like me and my wife were like, well, let's like create a production company, because once we saw it and saw people react to it, that's like, oh man, this is something. Like it's like you hear it and you always like it's never the same whenever people are like, oh, this is good or whatever, but like seeing it with an audience and you get that feedback, it really helps kind of propel you on, and like it's like, well, now I want to make the next one, and like, now it's like, okay, and it gives you that motivation to do it.
Yeah, very cool. It's good to hear about your growth and see you get more into it and get into the film festival circuit. What's in the future for you on the independent side?
Sure. So on the independent side, we're just wrapping up a project called Let's Go Action Squadron, and it is a concept. We eventually want to kind of elongate it into a TV series, but right now it's a short. It's a proof of concept, and it's about a group of childhood friends who had no fighting experience, who are forced as adults to fill a prophecy they made as kids to become space ninjas. So it's kind of like a fun take on Power Rangers, and just like kind of like those things. It's good, like wrapped in 90s nostalgia, and it's a little bit about how social media and like we don't have close friendships as much anymore, and so it's a little bit of everything. But I think it's really fun. It's definitely something where I got a chance to flex those After Effects muscles a little bit more, and some sci-fi like funny things. And of course, it's a comedy. So that's what we're making right now, and I'm looking forward to it. I think you'll probably see that submission later, because I think it's going to be crowd pleaser. I'm very, very happy for it and proud for it.
Awesome. We can't wait to see it. And I appreciate you participating in so many of our festivals. We just opened up two festivals in Atlanta, by the way. We have
Oh,
the
nice.
yeah, the Georgia Comedy Film Festival and the Atlanta After Dark Film Festival are now live. We're gonna have our first one in December, and yeah, we are expanding. So, there's different crowds to try it on. Let's just say that. So, I can't wait to see your new work. Can't wait to see what else you're working on. And man, just thanks for taking the time out to hang with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a blast. I love, chilling out and talking film, and it's always good stuff, man. Very much enjoy
For
it.
For sure, man. And this one of the reasons, that I'm even doing this format at all is just so I can spend more time getting to know everyone individually. At the festival, it can be kind of tough when there's like, 6 hours to get in and get out. And, you've got like 60 people that want to have a conversation. Um, it's not that I don't want to, I'll talk all night, but, it's just hard I hate just saying 3 or 4 sentences to someone. I'd rather, get to know them a little bit. So again, I appreciate you taking the time, especially, a few weeks before the event.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, my man. Have a good day.
You as well.